Okay, got a problem here with, it's here in the apron, my power feed goes. Been having this issue for the last 10 years or so, and always seems to be this brass gear that just wipes out. It's just starting to act up now, so I've got to go into it. I've got this one on eBay. These are expensive bloody things. I was quoted over 300 sterling plus carriage. However, I got that one for around 2. I'm going to have to look at making these myself in future. Now, the fact that it's the only brass thing in there, I don't know if it's a sacrificial job or what. I can find nothing about it on the manual. I've replaced in the last 10-12 years, I've replaced it, I'd say about 3 times. Now this last one only did about less than 3 years. I mean, this thing's only used a couple of months of the year, up until this year. Thanks to this COVID scam that's going on, we just know our workout system is totally closed down. Will be, maybe look if we get anything next year. So I'm going to take this out, and I'm going to have to, there's obviously something in there. Now I have always been very careful, you know, if I'm using the stop, I don't actually power it as far as the stop. I go to it in a millimeter or 2 and then hand feed the end of it, so it's not getting, you know, slapped up against things. So if anybody knows anything about this issue with these bloody Colchesters, it would be great help to know what's wrong in there. I'm going to have another look now. I did look at it. Not the last time. Last time I did it, I was in a hurry. Just put it in, set it up according to the manual, and that's it. So I might record some of the work that I do in it once I get this thing off. It's not a big job, but it's just a bit of a pain in the ass. You got to get all these fucking things out. It would be very fucking handy if there was an easy way of getting the clamps for the screw off easy. Then there'd be very little. You'd only have to remove one shaft, and that will actually go straight out the back. But the last time I did, just a few times I did it, I had to take the whole thing off, lift them all back, try to get this up as far as possible. So I'm going to work at that. I'll do a bit of probably throwing the camera there for bits of it, especially if I find something in there that's not right. I'm just going to have to spend time with it, and there's plenty of time on my hands at the minute. So that's the exercise at the minute. I haven't anything to do with it. Well, I have a job out there. I have an old drum mower. It's about 20 years old or more. It needs a bit of work. Various shafts. There's 1 or 2 gears a bit dodgy in it. They'll have to be cut and stuff. Now, I've never tried to do one of these gears before, but I'm going to have to work on it, because I've got plenty scrap brass around the place there from old ones. I can melt them down, make what I need. I actually measured it. I thought it looked like a 10 diametral pitch, kicked off at about, I don't know what, maybe 5 degrees, 4 or 5 degrees, something like that. I just lined it up with it. It's not quite that size either, so I'm going to measure the yoke inside, maybe make a dummy, harden it, and use it as a cutter for the thing. We'll figure it out as we go along. So like I said, I'll do various bits of filming as I go along with it. Okay, I think of this sort of figured out. Now, I have a manual for this thing, and it's about as handy as an ashtray on a motorbike. It doesn't give you anything on this. Now you get all the parts, part numbers, all that sort of stuff. That's fine. But how to adjust this bloody thing? It just says it's set at the factory. And leave it alone. That's okay, but this thing is about nearly 50 years old. I think it's 1970 or 71, going by the number on the thing. So I've kind of figured out how to adjust it. So if you have a look in here, hang on a second. Okay, now looking in here, we look at what happens. Okay, so over here is our lever for engaging the feed. Now, here we have a gear. Now this gear is driven off, you can actually see further in, see where my finger is. That's the gear that the drive shaft, let's say, from the headstock drives. So when we engage the lever, it engages that gear. That gear is meshed in there now. So how does that work? Okay, we have the lever out here, as I say, this guy. And down here is the inside end of it. And when we engage that, it raises this whole thing to engage the gears. It actually pushes that pin forward. Okay, I'll just point it out with a screwdriver for you. Okay, it pushes this shaft here forward, okay, which comes right along here, out to here, an adjustment nut at the end. Now that nut was way out here at the end. Okay, so I squeezed it in. So now it's in the engaged position. So you can knock it off with the lever. Up the lever, okay. Up the lever, everything drops down, okay. Now when it's engaged and she hits the stop or whatever, because this shaft here, it's spring loaded here, just where the screwdriver is now, okay. That's spring loaded. That keeps it pressured back, which sits in the cup that's on the end of this gizmo. So we take the tension off that spring, and we do it like this. Okay, because what happens? Right. Now that took very little of a push. So just engage it again. Okay. So this worm is what drives that brass gear, which from that everything else is driven in the box. Now just here, forward of that, now as the shaft goes right all the way through out to here with a nut on the end of it. Now I don't think the camera's going to pick this up here. This can separate here, okay? You'll see a kind of a serration on it. Now this is a bit dirty all the time. This whole thing needs to be washed. And when this comes under pressure, it expands that. Okay? Now, when this expands, this is driven forward. And that's just what I did. I pushed that forward and it trips the lever. So we come back out here. Now this is a spring system, kind of a washery spring system. Okay, I'll just try and show it you there. You can see I'm just stretching it. And the nut on the end, down here, okay. Hope this camera's getting this thing now. That nut is what tensions this spring, which keeps the required pressure on this thing. So I'm thinking, right, I'm pretty happy with how this thing adjusted. How time will tell. I've just adjusted to the point where it takes very little movement here. So it's a case of applying the required tension on this spring to allow it to move. That's my thinking. I could be wrong, but I'm going to go with this anyhow and see what happens. I have nothing to lose. Add another gear. So this can be adjusted when it's on the machine because there's a hole here. Right, so we have a hole here at the side, and you can actually fit your socket in there, grab the nut, and tighten to require this. Probably doing a bit of trial and error, but I think that's it now. I'm gonna have to wash this out. You can still see crud in the bottom of that thing. I just drained the oil out of it, but yeah, that needs a good cleaning. So that's the next thing. That'll go out next door, give it a good clean out, and then I start putting everything back in. As I said, this worm, that's the guy that drives this particular gear here. This is the gears taken out. I've just actually fitted on the shaft. It's just a bit tricky to get it down there because the shaft comes in from the back here. And then all the other shafts and gears have to go in. So this will take cleaning, and I'll do a bit more when that's done. But unfortunately, I can't show you if we look down here and you'll see that lever moving. There is another hook, we say, on the other end of that, and that's what hooks onto that shaft. As I said, that spring there, that keeps the tension on that shaft going back here, and it just keeps this whole thing engaged. So it's either you pop the lever or pressure comes on, which moves this guy forward just enough. It only takes, the way it's set now, it only takes maybe 3 millimeters, and that trips it off, I think. But like I say, the manual is a waste of time. There's nothing in it, nothing in use. Part numbers and stuff like that, but on this it just said it's set by the manufacturer, and that's it. That's all it says. It was set by the manufacturer of the other one. No, it's nearly 50 years old. Don't even know how to tune. Well, okay.